So I got interested in acting because I came from a theatrical family. My mother was a Broadway actress. My mother was an opera singer and went to the Juilliard School in New York City back in the 1940s. So I kind of grew up in it. But it was something I was never going to do with my life. I was going to do something rational and reasonable with my life. But here we are. so kind of growing up in that family, we, like everybody else, really just started exposure to plays at school. Jesus Christ Superstar in first grade,
Jesus Christ?
That was not Jesus Christ. I remember Jane Fishbein was, actually.
Or Jew on the left?
Yeah, exactly. And then I actually lucked out to be in a children's theater company when I was a kid called the Oddfellows Playhouse, because we rehearsed at the Oddfellows Lodge. And now it's actually one of the largest children's theater companies in the country, actually.
Nice.
So that's how I started. When I was an undergrad, I was not a theater major. I studied French and psychology and was a varsity athlete and did lots of other things because that's what I was interested in studying. But when I got to be a senior and I started thinking about what I really wanted to do with the rest of my life, it was be an actor, or at least give it a shot, right? I didn't know, no one knows. Can I do this, right? I want to do this, but can I do this? I don't know. So I auditioned for a number of theater schools, did not get into Yale, did not get into Juilliard, did not get into NYU, but did get into 4 other schools. And at first I was kind of heartbroken. I was like, why couldn't I get in? But of course I wasn't ready to be in those schools at that time. So I actually went to the University of Washington's program, which was right for me at that time. And it was a great program, and I had amazing teachers there. And grad school, as you know, is 3 years of hell and or working on your craft joyously every day, and a combination of both all the time. And those teachers clearly pushed us out of the comfort zones that we needed to be pushed out of. And I had a very talented class of people that I learned from every day. And without a doubt, that was kind of the benchmark, the foundation of the rest of the work that I've done since. Yeah, I can talk about it very quickly because I never use those words. I don't use them because they mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
I know that people talk about them, and Uda talks about them, and I have talked about them, and sometimes, occasionally, we'll mention them in class. But at the end of the day, what they're both trying to say is, no matter how you spin it, is getting away from cliche on one hand, so you could call that representational, right? And then living truthfully, which is presentational. But I just use living truthfully and cliche. If something's cliche in my own work, I don't believe it. It's indicating instead of living.
Right.
It's a projection of a truth rather than a truth.
Yes.
So at that time, you also had a shift in all of art, right? So we can't just look at the microcosm of acting and theater. You have to look at it across 2 greater movements. One is an artistic movement, and one is a scientific movement. And they kind of go together, at least in actor training. And the artistic one is the naturalism movement, which I think you're referring to. Ibsen and Chekhov were kind of proponents of that, which was kind of an imitation of nature. So up to that point in time, one had never seen a living room, never mind a couch, on a theatrical stage. So in A Doll's House, when the curtain came up, and in London, the first production, people were like, holy shit, that looks like my house. No one said that about Hamlet. No one went, hey, that castle, it looks like my castle, or, that Greek, whatever. So this was a shift. So yeah, because of the writing and because of that artistic movement that everything backed up to, things were becoming more naturalistic, or what's called verisimilitude, right? The imitation of life. So because of that artistic movement, yes, acting kind of down the chain of that began to adapt to the needs of the playwright, which was being shaped by this artistic movement. Parallel to that was the empirical movement in science, which is the, like you said, codification or systemization of, whether it's nature, as in Darwin, or evolution, or Stanislavski's systemization of the actor's process. Yeah. Well, again, it depends on what the actor's doing, right? But considering that arguably 90% of what actors, young actors certainly coming out of training programs, are asked to do is what we call psychological realism, or the verisimilitude of life, right? So naturalism. It's what you see in TV most of the time, CSI Miami, or it's what you see in feature films. the film The Help that just came out is, if you've not seen The Help, go see The Help. It's extraordinary. So, oh my God, it's the best acting I've seen in a long time. It's extraordinary. The very first scene with Viola Davis, the camera, they ask her a question, and she's got us hooked for the rest of the movie. She's amazing. It's naturalism. So given that naturalism is 90% of what young actors and actors in general are asked to do, I would say that is the definition. You might have already mentioned them, which is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So how can you live truthfully under imaginary circumstances? And then we can add to that with precise repeatability. If you have to do more than one take of a scene, or you have to do it night to night in the theater, with complete spontaneity, meaning it's as if I've done this, I'm doing it for the first time, even though I've already rehearsed this.
Right. Yeah. Or Shakespeare.
Yeah. In fact, that definition holds for any style, because you always want to live truthfully. You will always be under imaginary circumstances, and you will have precise repeatability and complete spontaneity, if you're any good. If you're not good, it's a different definition.